Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about rings. We're going to be talking about style, stone, setting, and metal. So when you're talking about rings, there's a whole lot of styles, and we got a bunch right here. And so basically it depends, gender is a big deal, or what you're trying to show when you pick a style. Women, they're going to pick thinner rings typically, thinner band on the ring because of the size. It's relative to the size of their finger and the way that they look fashion wise. Whereas men, you're going to want something a little bit thicker. You might want a pinky ring like this, um, and there's different styles around the world. Islamic rings for men are mostly going to be in silver, and it has to do with the hadith. But you have like this ring in stars with sapphires on it. It's nice and thick. That's a style that you see in places like Turkey and Pakistan, and in some of the Gulf states too. Um, there are certain things like when you see a lot of men's rings in India, and there's a lot of different styles, but you're more likely to see a solitaire like this star ruby, and these are all styles. More art type rings where you see is with these castings, like this one, where this is basically everything in this is backwards, and this was all a cast piece in this sapphire ring. You might have other European or even sometimes Latin American styles, like this is a men's ring, it's a pinky ring, and it's a cross in mother of pearl, even though it's something that would be more for a man. But there are rules that are different, like some cocktail rings, they like this one. This is obviously, it's a pink um, coral ring, and then you'll have cocktail rings like this giant uh, cornflower blue sapphire. It's and it depends. Most women are gonna wear solitaires because it's the style, like this ruby, because it has to do with it's very simple, very elegant, and it goes with lots of people. But when you're talking about um, picking the stones are projecting different things. Like whether it's a man's ring, you know, like this star sapphire, which projects a different type of style. Exotic stones do. Um, or you pick this woman's cocktail ring, or the solitaire I showed you, or this heart-shaped woman's ring. The heart shape obviously would have more of a personal connection to someone, but the red fire of that stone it says sexy. It's like putting on the bright red lipstick. Whereas, blue is a nice warm color, like with this tanzanite ring. And having unusual cut stones, like a shield cut or trillium cut, it shows something different to the wearer. It shows a unique style. It catches people's eyes. It can sell something warm, something unique. You have all kinds of cuts because you can have the rose styled facets. Most corundum stones, um, when you're looking at your stones, are it is very suspicious of whether it's real or not if the stone is not in a pavilion styled cut that's built up because of the shape of the corundum crystals. So that can help you identify things. Also, like rubies really they almost always fluoresce. They're gonna fluoresce, and they'll also, the natural ones will have rutiles, which you can look up on Google, which won't be faded if they've not been heated. They typically have those, and the crystals typically will go in more than one direction. So a lot of some stones, like if you were to look at this one, not too far away, you can actually see all of the natural inclusions in the sapphire ring. So it's very helpful. And when you're buying rings, sometimes you'll notice things that the jewelers didn't, especially when they're selling vintage pieces. This is a sapphire ring that I paid a little less than $40 for. But you can see there's a stone there. There's also ones on the side like that, black stones. So these sapphires, when you look at them carefully, they're actually natural. So you have like a whole pave type set there, and you have 4 black diamonds. It's set in silver, but you'll see around the world, people will even set expensive things in copper, depending on the designer or the culture or what they're trying to do. Um, so you have a lot of options. You even can go really unique and get like a fossil. Uh, you can put all kinds of things on a ring. Uh, there, so when we're talking about, this goes into style and setting, but we're going to transition. You can see how this has almost a square shape to it, and so does this one. So we're going to now talk about settings. So these are prong set, except for in between where they're held together with pressure, and you actually can have pressure set stones in the center. This is like an ice box, almost like a wrapper ring, and it's kind of cool because of that. Whereas this has a bezel on it, where they've actually put edges on this piece of lapis lazuli to to hold it into place. And then you also have stones that are basically just they're basically just surface set, where they put the stone down into the bottom, and it basically the pressure of the metal holds it into place so that it has a nice flush look to it. Now, and then you have your prongs, so which would be, these would be examples of your prong set stuff. I'm not a huge fan of prongs because they get caught on things. Here's a diamond. This is nice diamond because it has moonstones in it, and it has diamonds, which are just above salt and pepper. But you can see that these are all natural material in here, and there's no synthetics for the. But the point though is that by doing that, though, basically, I don't like the prongs because they can bend, they can catch things. The metal stone is going to typically be harder than whatever you put is typically whatever you use to hold it in place, because most stone is by very nature that can be used for daily wear. It's going to be a very tough to hard material, and you're gonna struggle to get it to do that. Typically, going into metals, I'm more of a fan of a bezel, or a flush set stone that's been put in very well, very hard, because it's much more of a durable setting, and it takes a more skilled jeweler. Anyone can buy prong set castings that will fit in there, but to go into the discussion of metals, this is why some people like to have their prongs and set in platinum. This is an all platinum ring with diamonds. They will have different kinds of things like that. White gold is another hard option. Steel rings are not a horrible option in my book as far as metals, as long as the stone is the part. If it's good stone, that's going to be the most valuable part of the ring by far. People like different things. Having said that, you want to make sure that the setting is strong. You can have bezel set silver that'll last for pretty much generations if the bezel was done well, and it has a decent amount of metal in it. So when it comes to metals, I like the bezel. When you look at my rings, I'm a huge fan of silver, platinum, and white gold. And the reason is the durability, and it goes with lots of different things. Because it's not a too picky metal. It's either gonna be light and give accentuation to whatever you're wearing, or it's going to match it. So you can't really go wrong with the white metals that much. And the advantage of the stainless steel is that if you're putting is that you get the kind of look of a lot of platinum if you get the right color of stainless for less, and you don't have to worry about destroying the setting. If you use a really good stone like a corundum, corundum and jade are more durable than diamond. Diamond is harder, no question about that. It's harder, but when we go back to talking about stones, the durability is very important. Your sapphire, your ruby, your jade, they have a lot of durability because of their toughness, which is different than hardness. So like that, you see that with the metals too. And metal is malleable. The stone is the hard part. But whenever you pick, like the type of stone that you pick can affect the setting because of the complexity in protecting it. This is a emerald, and you'll see it's in a hexagon cut. Well, you would want to have to put a bezel around it because you would likely damage that ruby. However, you could take, or not ruby, emerald, that Colombian emerald. You could take this ruby and you could put prongs around it. This was an accidental creation of art from the lapidary when they messed up the cutting, and you're not going to have a lot of problems with it. So it's important if you're putting your own stone on something. Most jewelers should know this, but to be conscious as an informed consumer, because some of these people will take advantage of you. It's an industry of snakes a lot of times. There are some wonderful people in it. There's a lot of crooks in it. And you want to make sure that you're getting something that's good quality and well made. So I really would stress getting a bezel on most stones and with most rings because they are very durable. And you'll get away with a lot of stuff with a lot of metals. As far as places I would tell you to go online, you can use people that sell on Etsy. But if you go on Etsy, you must be a informed consumer, and you must look at a review history over a long time, or have a way to vet them wherever they are at, because there's always a chance even reputable sellers go sideways, and you need to look at the weights of what they're saying they're selling you, and seeing if it matches what would be in the natural material. Because a lot of times that's reflecting their shipping weight, and a lot of these scammers, they're giving you weights off of the measurements that are way off. There's stone calculators online, then in millimeters, and most of these guys will sell in millimeters because they're selling to jewelry makers. And there are things in the stone that can be way too good to be true, or just not possible. And knowing that is important. And you can get some good deals that way, and you also can get ripped off that way. So that's another more risky variant. As far as other people, I think the fact that you can negotiate with people, or at least talk to people like Trax NYC, they have, if you want to buy domestically, you want to buy from people that you know are not going to deliberately lie to you or scam you. That is a much better route to go. They have a media presence, so that's a good thing. Some people get in disputes with them, and some of those people, I have to take it. Like, for instance, Harlem Bling. He claims that you can't tell that this is a ruby without a microscope. I can pick this up and tell you in 2 seconds this is not a ruby. And the reason is you turn it upside down, there's no facets. That's the first thing I noticed. And you're going to have a hard time in that thickness doing that with a cabochon. With a ruby, I'll tell you that straight up. I've cut some stone before in my life. Another problem is just the way it looks when light hits it. The refraction is going to be nowhere near corundum. It feels wrong. The color is very strange if you actually hold up lights to this and look at it. I don't need a microscope. I can tell you very quickly that this is not a ruby. Another thing is, I'm pretty sure that this bezel is fake and that this is glued into this. And he says Italian silver. I wonder what he means by that exactly, and what these factories are, because there's a lot of places that do most of their work in China or somewhere else, and they put parts of it together or they ship it out of Italy, because a lot of the old Italian factories and designers have been at least partially purchased by Chinese investors. And that's something where Italy used to mean a big deal in some of this stuff. It doesn't mean as much as it used to. So that's something. As far as other things that I would caution people to avoid are people who are trying to sell you pieces of investment only for the metal, or they're selling you things and they're telling you natural ruby, for example, and they're not specifying what they mean by that, or there's no type of certification, no details, because details or certification, if you know what you're doing, either can be okay, but you got to know what you're doing. A certification is just a lab report. So they've been wrong before. Labs have been wrong before. It does increase the chance you got something right. But when they are just using the term natural, or they're just saying ruby, it can mean so many things. It could be a mined ruby that's glass filled. It could be very cheap. It could just be because it's the actual material that mean that, and it could be a fusion, a lab fusion grown ruby. So it's very important. It's also important to know ones where there's no synthetics on the markets. When you're talking like your garnets, your tourmalines, your jades, those are important things to know. Some stones are easier to trade in. If you know a little bit about star rubies and star sapphires, it is much easier to avoid synthetics because of the types of inclusions that create them. But it's important. Some people will talk about the durability of tungsten. If I threw this tungsten on the ground, that would shatter like glass. These are hard floors. It's true, but the hardness and durability are kind of different things. So watching the specifics, learning the jargon they use to sell you and scam you is very important. People will say genuine diamond. Well, there's lab diamonds. There is irradiated diamonds, which were junk diamonds that have been irradiated to remove the boron to make them look clean and flashy. When if you get a boron diamond, it might be $50 or $300 for a really nice one, but if you get the natural one, it could be thousands of dollars. And a lot of these people, they sell high. People think if it's too good to be true. Well, a lot of times they sell it close to the price to get you in because they want to make money off of it. So knowing how to detect these things, most of the diamond colors, if they fluoresce, they have some boron in them, and part of the boron process is mixing other materials like boron and aluminum. So you can check for fluorescence. There's different ways that you can start to screen these things out. But these are all important for you to know as a consumer and to watch for. All kinds of markings: gold filled, vermil. This is just a crash course as I help. So I hope this is helpful. You all have a good day.